Hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. Now, no judgment, but are you a bit of a sugar fiend? Do you have a sweet tooth? And as someone that also has, I can relate. I remember throughout my childhood, I would have so many sweets. My teeth are still in not a great shape, directly as all of the sugar I had as a child. Now, this session is all about breaking sugar addiction. And there is ways of doing it, partly by giving sugar a connotation that it acts more like a drug. It's more like something poisonous for you than something actually useful. A lot of people consider sugar just like a food. And I could say that sugar in fruit and sugar in certain natural foods actually is a food. It contains lots of nutrients. But when it's hyper-processed, when all of the fiber and all of the water has been taken out and you're just left with sugar granules, there is no actual food-like quality of it left. What you now have is a drug that can boost glycogen levels very quickly and is very, very addictive. And food companies know that, which is why they have so much sugar, as well as other processed foods like salt, in the ingredients, because what they want is clients that are addicted, customers that are addictive. So if you feel that you have a sweet tooth, then just know that you've been trained to have that. That actually, if you grew up in a different time in history where there was none of this sugar, you wouldn't have these cravings because you would never have got addicted to it in the first place. Now, the best way to get the most out of this session is to know your enemy. So what are the sweet or sugary things that you tend to crave? It might be chocolates, it might be candy, it might be those hard-boiled sweets that are crunchy, it might be chewy sweets. Whatever it is, know what it is and think, what are the circumstances that tend to get you reaching for them? It might be a visual trigger that you see them and then you feel a compulsion, or it might be an emotional trigger that if you feel low energy or you feel bored, then you grab them or you buy them. These things are impulsive by nature. There is a reason that supermarkets have the sweet things right by the checkout, because if you see them, you might buy them. But if you have to walk just 30 seconds to somewhere else in the supermarket, you don't want to. It's not worth it for you. So that is how weak a hold sugar has over you, but equally, because it's very prevalent and it's everywhere, it can be difficult to avoid. Think of the fizzy drinks, think of sugar in desserts and ice cream and things like that. It's difficult to have these boundaries, but it's the boundaries that will set you free. So think of what sugar is it that you crave and what are the circumstances that you crave that sugar, and then you'll get more value from this hypnosis session. Now, it was created for an individual. Therefore, some of the suggestions relate much more to the client that I'm working with than just generic suggestions. So if you do want a hypnosis session completely crafted and calibrated and customized to you and your circumstances, there will be a link in the description. If you click more information or show notes, you'll see lots of resources in there, free courses, but there will also be a link where you can schedule a completely free consultation call. We'll have a chat over Zoom, and who knows, we might end up working together directly rather than you just listening to the recordings. For now, though, you might really get some value from this session. So find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, feel a wonderful feeling of release, as if any tension, stress, and worries, perhaps even any old stories, are starting to feel like they're leaving your body in your outward breath. And I want you to breathe in a feeling of self-love and exhale any attachments to gratification. Because the wisest part within knows that sometimes those things that have short-term gratification normally come at a very high price. As you breathe in and breathe out, think about that. Think about a time when you were given something cheap or free, but it came at a very high price. So continue to breathe in that feeling of self-love and exhale. Exhale any feelings of dependency or habits that have been unknowingly destructive. And some people believe that when you know better, you do better. But sometimes months or years can pass before the penny drops. But when the penny does drop, everything changes instantly. Breathing in self-love, exhaling any need for short-term gratification. Each breath takes you deeper and deeper relaxed. The deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you breathe. As your body relaxes, your imagination awakens. And I wonder if you could imagine being in your garden on a sunny day under blue skies. But not just any time. I want you to imagine this happening days after an important decision. A decision where you chose you. Imagine being under the sunshine and blue skies in that garden. Maybe there's a breeze or a fragrance, a real feeling of connection. And continue to breathe in that self-love. I want you to get a feeling that sometimes you've seen people in the past that have no self-love. They have self-loathing. And I want you to see a connection in those people that have lost the ability to love themselves. How easy it is to do things that are destructive. Short-term pleasure, long-term pain. But those people brimming with self-love, high self-esteem, self-respect, there is a reluctance to do those things that are pleasurable in the moment that can bring long-term pain. So connect with that feeling that those major decisions in your life came from a place of love, respect, of nurturing, of protection from you to you. And feel proud of those earlier decisions. And get a sense that what if now we're not doing something new, We're just building on the foundations that have already been laid in your past. That's it. Allow your nervous system to relax and unwind. Give permission for the body to feel safe. And I want you to get a sense of what control really is. Control has the idea of struggle, of fighting. But when you truly became free, you stopped using control, and instead, you simply reprioritized. You prioritized yourself over a substance. It doesn't matter if that was a cigarette, or perhaps a binge followed by a purge. When the penny dropped, you chose you. So allow your breathing to find its own rhythm. Allow your unconscious to listen without pressure, without control, and without struggle. Imagine yourself in that garden and bring your focus inwards. And think back to cravings of the past. Cravings were never a failure of character. Sometimes they were just moments of vulnerability, fatigue, stress. Sometimes in the afternoon, but not always. Moments when your system wanted relief, comfort, a quick shift in state. And you don't have to judge that part. You can acknowledge it with compassion, because you already know something powerful and profound, that trying to control cravings only gives the cravings something to push against. And I want you to release yourself from any need or desire to live your life by fighting urges, and instead to live your life by choosing what matters more. Allow your unconscious mind to remember that time in your past, perhaps for 10 or 11 years. There was short-term pleasure, but it came at a cost. And one day you made a choice, a decision that your health, your life, your vitality were more important than short-term relief. And think of later in life, something else almost became a reward, a treat, a habit, a routine, a ritual. And it was only after you broke that habit that you realized that all of those stories and narratives weren't really real. You just convinced yourself that they were. Think back to that decision when enough was enough. And think how pleased you are now that you made that decision then. And I want you to think, did you really lose anything? Or did you gain something? Gain more health, more confidence, more clarity, more freedom. And when something no longer connects or aligns with who you really are, the desire fades naturally. And what if the desire for lollies was who you were when you were 6 years old? but not who you are now? What if chocolate aligned with who you were when you were 9 or 10, but doesn't really align with who you are now? When it no longer quite fits, notice how easily it loses its appeal. And now, without judgment, without fear, simply with clarity, I want you to imagine seeing sugar and all of those hyper-processed foods for what they truly are. It's not nourishment, they have no nutrients. And it's not fuel. I want you to see them as a chemical shortcut, a drug designed to hijack the brain, to spike dopamine, create false comfort. And notice how many times you've been eating chocolate or sweets, and before you even finish, you're already thinking about the next one. This is not the behavior of food. This is the behavior of a drug. There was a time in your life when cigarettes were once marketed as pleasure, until they weren't. And what if in your mind, sugar are now the cigarettes of food? Not evil, just incompatible. Something that extracts far more than it gives. And your unconscious understands the difference deeply. And I want you to notice that thing inside you. A part that would occasionally be in control. The part that, no matter how much in control you try to be, would still reach for something sweet. And it wasn't to sabotage you. Maybe it was an attempt to give you pleasure or help you cope. That part wanted relief, wanted ease, wanted to change how it felt in the fastest way it knew. And I want you to thank that part now. Thank it for trying to help. But let it know that the price is no longer worth paying. There is a wiser part within you. A part that chooses recovery, healing, freedom, that chooses life over any temporary escape. And I want you to hear the tonality, the conviction of that part within you, saying something like, "We don't need this anymore. Enough is enough. You are choosing life." And that craving part can relax, because it no longer needs to protect you through chemistry. There are better ways now. I want you to imagine yourself in the future, perhaps a week from now, maybe an afternoon. See yourself, a dip in energy, a familiar old pattern but without the pull. And perhaps instead of craving sugar or something sweet, I want you to notice that your body is asking for something different. And maybe it's hydration, or movement, or protein, or freshness. What if your body craves nutrition rather than gratification? Or maybe just a moment of rest and relaxation, and see that future version of you responding without drama, without debate, no need for struggle or negotiation. Almost like sugar no longer registers as food. It's a drug, noise, a wriggling worm on the end of a hook, and you move on easily. And then imagine yourself months from now. At that point, your body has recalibrated and adapted. Maybe it seems surprising, but in the same way, you were able to break free from cigarettes. That future version of you doesn't miss sugar. In fact, it doesn't want it. Because eating well, feeding yourself kindness, love, respect, gives you something far more powerful. It gives you clarity, energy, stability, and most importantly, when you are kind and nourishing to yourself, it gives you a whole new level of self-respect. See that future version of you with pride in their choices, trust in yourself, a quiet, steady self-love. And that feeling lasts far longer and goes far deeper than any brief hit of sweetness ever could. And if your unconscious is ready and willing to choose yourself, just as you've done before, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Connect and align with that as it's time to leave this place and return to the present, the here and now. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, connect and calibrate into the here and the now as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.